All right, so Morbid Angel with the new album Kingdoms Disdained. It came out on December 1st, 2017, and it's their 9th studio album.
Yep, they're an 80s Florida death metal band.
Yes, classic 1983 formation. That was when they formed. And actually, everybody except Trey Azagthoth is the only member that's kept on this new album. They brought back a singer, bassist named Scott. No, sorry, Scott's the other one. Steve Tucker. No, shoot, is that which one? Yeah, Steve Tucker came back, and Scott Fuller, the drummer of Annihilated, and for a little while Havoc, is the new drummer. So basically, this is like basically everyone's new-ish except Trey Azagthoth, who is the guitarist and writes all the major riffs. It was recorded in St. Petersburg, Florida, so you know it's true Florida death. And the producer was Eric Rutan, who produced Cannibal Corpse's new album. He's produced Nile. He's produced like Goat Whore, several things like that. So he's
the death guy.
He's experienced. So let's start at the beginning with Piles of Little Arms.
Piles of little arms. Did it make you want to throw your arm into a pile?
My arms aren't little, but I think this is a very silly name for what is a very heavy song.
Silly name. I love it though.
Like, I mean, the song implies it's really brutal and intense, but Piles of Little Arms is just cute. You have to hear it as Piles of Little Arms.
No, and it just like jumps right into it. There's no like intro or anything. It just
starts
immediately goes
do
do do
yeah.
do
do. This song I described as like bouncy metal. It is
kind of bouncy. Yeah.
It's super like sort of lilting.
It's like it's got like a really interesting rhythm to it, I feel like.
And a phrase that will come to define this album for you, and of course it's death, so what do you expect is double kicks, double kicks, double kicks.
Forever,
all day.
Like, I'm impressed with their drummer.
Seriously, yeah. Scott Fuller, I think is his name. He double kicks for every single song is so full of double kicks and bells. Like that.
I mean, it's death metal. That's kind of the name of the game.
Well, that's why I don't want anyone to say like, oh, how can you not expect that it's death metal? I don't want anyone to say, oh, you're being really repetitive. That's almost every song because that's death metal.
Yeah.
So, of course, now we're getting in trouble where people are like, no, it's not that way. This band
it is.
Yeah. So. It's
every death metal song I've ever heard.
So this song features a lot of really interesting vocal pauses in the chorus.
And there's some instrumental pauses, too.
Well, yeah, like I said, the riffs here are really different. Like I said, mainly because the intro riff and the later sort of like a bridgy riff is it has that bounciness, and then it goes into standard sort of like standard double kicks, heavy death metal that you come to expect. Yeah. This is a very good... I think this is a good starter song, because it shows that they are both standard death metal, give me double kicks, give me trim picking, but also it shows that they have a little bit of that more 80s thrashy flavor, like how they just came out of thrash in a way. And I liked it for that reason. But the thing that bothered me about this is that 10 seconds at the end, there's a solo-ish.
Yeah, I wouldn't even call it a solo, I'd just call it like some squeedling out.
Yeah, so the whole So the whole last minute is like new riffs, new drums.
And they do that a lot on this album, I feel like.
This album definitely does a sort of... We'll talk about the outros. But so this whole album does like... Where it switches up... This song in particular switches up all the riffs at the last minute. There's lots of intricate drum work, lots of distinct bell work and cymbal work, lots of movement. And then there's the 10 seconds where there's a solo with a very 80s metal tone. It's very sort of ripping and crispy.
Yeah. No, it does actually, like... Unlike a lot of other songs we'll get to later, it's actually got like a... solo tone.
Yeah, right?
And sticks out of the mix.
Yeah. But it only lasts for like half a second, and then it goes into a sort of dive thing. And basically, it just leaves the song feeling dead.
Dead? Did it make you feel dead inside?
No. This song's really interesting. So this song, it starts out with sort of intro-y, sort of trim-picky, chuggy-ness, which to me is just something to get past. It's just, here's our intro.
The intro section and the riff underneath the, like, verse, to start with, I really like. It feels chaotic, and it, like, some riffs, I use the term spin. Like, they've got this... It's a cyclical, like, scale that feels like it's a circular. It's hard for me to explain, but this is a riff that spins.
Yes, well, I was going to say, the verse riff is mainly these two notes that a trim pick goes...
Yeah, but it feels like it's Like, you want to, like,
well, it reminds me of that traditional sort of, and a lot of things on here, that traditional sort of black metal structure, which is 3 notes, you know? Mm-hmm. But it's a lot faster, it's got a lot more to it. It's got double kicks. Yeah. Wow, crazy.
Well, no, and I just love the, like, kind of chaotic, overwhelming feel of it.
Oh, yeah.
It's, like, it's overwhelming in a good way.
It makes me wonder what, because DEAD, and this is an acronym, DEAD, I wonder what it stands for. It probably says in the song, but I couldn't understand him enough. But it's interesting. So there's this, at about 1 minute 30 seconds in, they get this new riff, and it's so
groovy.
Yeah, it's weirdly groovy and melodic, which is interesting because we'd never listened to Morbid Angel before this, and people crucify us for that kind of thing. But hey, this is our first Morbid Angel album. It is. Yeah, and so it adds this really sort of like really sort of melodic, funky like riff.
For like 1 bar, and then it switches to blast beats for 1 bar. Or no, it's like 2 bars of groove, and then 2 bars of blast beats, and then that same, like, section repeated. And so it's like, as soon as you're like, yeah, groove, oh, blast beats.
You're like, yeah, groove.
Oh, blast beats.
Yeah, it's really interesting.
It, like, to me, it was kind of, like, irritating.
You said you like the chaotic.
I do. No, I really enjoy it in the end. I like the song a lot. But that riff there is just like, yeah, oh, dang it, blast beats.
Oh, I mean,
I don't dislike blast beats, but
no. You want to start a black metal project, of course.
Yeah, yeah.
So this is the shortest song at about 3 minutes long, and I would say this song feels like it has the perfect length.
Mm-hmm. It's concise.
I will say that sort of section with the little groovy biz into the blast beats, I expected there to be more of it, like there's a solo or something. Mm-hmm. I actually, overall with Morbid Angel, I expected more solos than are actually in this. But
maybe that's not the thing. We don't really know.
That being said, you know, I don't feel any disdain for it, and I certainly don't feel a garden of disdain for this album at all.
Garden of Disdain. How much disdain did you have for this song?
Both a lot and a little. So this song is really interesting. I don't know a lot about Morbid Angel, but I'm used to death metal being very fast, very driven, very sort of like trim picks and heavy like riffage going on. And this Garden of Disdain is very chuggy. It's very, very, it's very heavy.
Yeah. The verse has this kind of like muted riff. This muted, this muted chuggy riff. Which I liked because it's like it gives you a chance, if you're good at understanding death metal vocals, to sit and listen to the lyrics. Like it gives you a chance to do that.
Well, what's interesting is this song starts off with a very, very fast. Compared to that, the song starts with a very, very fast, very traditional sort of death metal, like you know, Fly the Bumblebees,
but also low that you can't really tell what notes there are.
Of course, this is very low. They're in a low tuning. And it's mixed very bass heavy.
Just cut all the mid to all the treble.
Yeah. But the thing about the intro, like I said, the intro, you might say it's a counterpoint to the chugs, so you really understand, so you really feel the chugs more. But the problem is, there's this huge musical pause between the two, where it's like...
I kind of like it, because it's like a breath. You're like, oh, what's going to come next?
I know, but there's not even like there's like a sassy slide or a pinch or something to be like, oh, look, there's something. It's just literally, there's just silence. And for me, it feels too jarring when we switch into the chugs from that.
I can see that.
But I mean, it's death metal, so whatever I think is jarring is just silly in the end. But the thing is, the verse riff is chuggy, the chorus is chuggy, but during the verse riff, I noticed with the like the space between a lot of those, this is a very forwardly mixed cymbal-wise song.
The whole thing, I think, the drums are very forwardly mixed. Like we'll get to some later songs, but just the drums are definitely... I feel almost more important than, like, the bass or even the guitars sometimes.
It's definitely more important than the bass, because with a lot of death metal albums, this one included, the bass guitar is basically mixed out.
Except for one song.
Except for one song, which we'll get to. But I meant to say, like, the verse is very, you know, it's very crash cymbal, very China cymbal heavy. I don't know if it's actually China cymbal, but it's got a lot of breakup to it. It's very, very loud and splashy. But then I felt like during the chorus, even though it was still a different kinds of chugs, it was just the double kicks you were hearing, and the bells were all really quiet.
I said the double kick and bell beat under the chorus is choice.
My problem is I felt like the bells were mixed too quietly, or that their sustain wasn't long enough, so you could really not, like, it was like ting, ting, instead of like ting, it was...
Maybe they just didn't want the bells to, like, overpower your ear. Because, like, sometimes bells can be too sharp. Like, sometimes in death metal songs especially, I feel like there's, like, ting! Like...
Yeah, but all like I said, I feel like mostly just this song, because for the rest of the songs it's much more forward. The drums kind of took a back seat in the chorus. But this is the first example of the weird ambient guitar noise in any of the songs. So after, like, behind verse 2 and later verse 3, there's this sort of there's this really like
spoopy guitar noise.
Is like wah-y or ambient-y or really reverby lead going. A very backward mixed lead going on. That's really it's providing some weird melody for the song, where I would say,
well, and there's filling up some of the treble space that is empty,
and therefore it makes the song feel more full. But to me, it's just not a very good sound.
Yeah, it doesn't make very much sense.
Yeah, it definitely doesn't have a righteous voice at all.
The righteous voice. Was the song righteous?
It was. And so this is the first song on the album where I would really say we kind of look back on that sort of transitionary period when people were like, thrash isn't heavy enough. People like Chuck Schuldiner and Morbid Angel, clearly. And they're like, thrash isn't heavy enough or dark enough. But let's take that thrashy style and deepen it up and grossing it up and growling it up.
Cut the treble.
Yes, and that's really what I feel the Righteous Voice fits right in that space of being a thrash setup to a death metal song.
Especially the verse riff, like, the intro is kind of, like, boring and chuggy.
Well, it's no, it's not. It's a series of gallops. It's
I guess I didn't.
Yeah, it's super, and it's got, like, pinches in it, and it's really, that's cool.
I didn't like that riff very much. But
I liked it a lot, so maybe we're just
but then the verse riff, it did the thrash thing. You pan to one side, pan to the other side, and then...
it's trim picked, and then at the end of the trim pick sort of section, there's a little bit of riff or scale work or a lick or something, whatever you want to call it. And for that, like for me, and each of the transitions between the verse and the chorus, each had this sort of like this sort of like melodic-y. I say melodic. I'm going to say melodic a lot in these upcoming songs, but what I mean is death metal, thrash metal melodic, where we get kind of sort of like where you're in the scale, and it's pretty, but it's not, but it's still heavy and brutal, you know. So like all the transitions were very melodic climbs or descends in this, and the solo. This is the first song with a satisfying solo. Yeah. Well, at least the first one.
What I was, before we get rid of the verses, I was going to say, I had a problem with the verse in that, so it has this like kind of thrashy riff that I liked, and then the verse, the drums are too loud to like hear it. Like there's just these blast beats happening where it's like, oh, I can't even hear the guitar anymore because it's just blast beats overpowering it.
I will say, yes, that's a problem, is that everything's mixed to about the same volume level, or drums are mixed a little bit louder than that. It's got I'm not sure if it's, the sort of classic sort of sound brick walling problem.
Yeah, well, and we talk about like sonic space a lot, and the problem with this, and I suspect probably a lot of like heavy music in general, is that it's filling up the bass space really, really well, but then there's not a lot above that. Like, the vocals are in the low space, the guitars are in the low space, like, everything is low. Well, see, except for some of the cymbals fill up the higher space.
Well, see, that's why I really appreciated the pinches in this song. That's why I appreciate...
Yeah, the pinches were nice.
I appreciate his crashy cymbal work. I appreciate his very sort of bell sounds. I especially like those in this, because to me, they shouldn't take a backseat like they did in earlier songs. That's why I like this song so much. And... like I said, at about 3 minutes in is the first solo. It's this thrashy solo. It's got sweet trim picking. It's got maybe some like weird tapping. It's got bends.
The tone was an interesting choice of this guitar, like, because to me it was really reverby and bright almost.
I said some of the solos in this have like a sort of almost like glam metal 80s tone on their guitar solos, and I'm like, that's super weird for that, and maybe that's a Morbid Angel thing, but I feel like these tones are very 80s.
Yeah, I just feel like the guitar solo tone doesn't really match with the like...
Not at all. Well, it's because it's the only thing with a full like sonic range instead of all being mixed really quiet, so I feel like it just doesn't match. And that's why it's funny when that song ends and there's a riff in between. Then at 4 minutes, there's the second solo. And they keep going back to this sort of thing. And this is, I think, what you brought up earlier. You were saying about weird solo tones. At 4 minutes is the second solo. And it's this slow...
and it's really warbly.
Dying. I said that it's underwater. It sounds like it's underwater.
It does.
It's just like... It
was an unnecessary solo.
I'm like, what is happening? It's very round tone. And like I said, maybe that's more of a death metal thing, because... I like some death metal. I haven't listened to too much of it, but I'm into what I've heard. I'm into this, definitely. Yeah. This album was really good. But that, to me, didn't sound very good. I don't know.
Yeah, I didn't like that second solo very much. The first one was better.
And I can't really think of anything to say about this, so I'm just going to say the title of the next song, Architect and Iconoclast.
Architect and Iconoclast. How'd you do it?
How did I do it? Well, you see, me and Azagthoth got together.
What'd you think of it?
Okay, so this is the longest song on the album, and my oh my does it overstay its welcome, I think.
A little bit, yeah.
So, yeah, it's not like an 8-minute long, like, sweet Jesus, let it in, someone kill me. But, so this song is really interesting. It's got a lot of interesting parts that I think that don't necessarily fit together, but I like the ideas of them. So the intro is this very sort of jerky riff. It's like... Yeah,
it keeps you on your toes a little bit.
Yeah, and I really like that because it after the slow dying underwater sound of the end of the second solo of the last song, I really feel like it
gets your attention.
It just really pumps you up. And then in the chorus, it's got this like sort of like jammier groove thing going on.
It's got groove, I'd say. Like, Joe, we are the architects.
Yeah,
like it's got you can bang your head to it.
It's got a lot more like tom and bell going on for it. It's got you can hear much more besides the double kicks. You can hear there's a lot more rhythmic melody. You know what I'm saying? In the drums, there's a lot more melody in the drums. I'm saying.
I know what you mean.
And for that, I think it's really interesting. This is the first song that I really heard. And I mentioned the chorus and things where there was the vocal growl high and low layering. I was
just about to mention that. Yeah, the song initially starts out with a higher vocal. I say that in quotes because, like, you know, in comparison to say like a black metal scream or whatever, it's not that high, but it's like a higher growl. And then in the chorus, it drops back to a low growl, and then they layer those over each other, which I later does in a lot of other songs later on. So it's a nice introduction to that technique that they're going to use.
Well, yeah, I like it, and later it's used to a more chanty effect, but here it's used. I would say once again, this song is one of the first one where the growls kind of sing together. It's because of that grooviness in the chorus and that layering. They kind of have this. I'm gonna say growl harmony. I've said that before in another video, but I think it was Scour that I said. And this song kind of has that going. And then the idea, but that's just an idea of melody. They're obviously not in harmony because they're just growls. But the idea of melody carries into the bridge, which has this sort of melodic sort of lead thing. It's very quietly mixed because everything is very quietly mixed. All the leads are quietly mixed. Everything's quietly mixed. And then we go into a sweet solo. The solo in this is... I
don't know if I'd call it sweet. It just felt kind of random to me.
Really?
It felt kind of like they're like, do a solo, and it's like...
Well, I don't know. It kind of had that sort of... to name a band, like a thrash metal band, like it had that Slayer-y feel to me.
It's true. And you know I love me some Slayer.
But the thing, it had this very sort of... It was very short. That being said, it didn't have a lot going for it, but it certainly had a sort of... It felt chaotic. It felt energy. It felt... It was fun. It had a tone... And once again,
too short.
Oh, yeah. And once again, all the solos on here are way too short, except the weirdly long ones that are, like, slow and weird. But the fast solos are all too short. And so this, once again, with a lot of that treble space, finally having something to fill it, my brain just goes, yes. This is a breath of fresh air.
More satisfying, yeah.
And so that's why I think I appreciated it more.
Mm-hmm. The problem is that, so this is like a 5-minute song, more or less, and 4 minutes in, it enters a new riff before this solo, and it's like, whoa, this is late in the game to have new riffs.
Yes, like I said, that's the problem with Architect and Iconoclast being so long. Like, 5:44, you have to...
I only like 4-minute songs.
Yeah. It's... The next song is Paradigms Warped.
Paradigms Warped. Did it warp your paradigm?
No. I'm just not sure what that would mean. So this song is, I would call it the ballad.
I don't know if I'd say that. I'd say... My main comment about the song is that the guitars weren't really necessary in general.
Well, that's what I'm saying. This song is the slow song. This song is the smooth one.
It's got some chugs in it.
Yeah, so let's start at the beginning. So the song has these very sort of marching gallops. And
some death metal acapella group.
Yeah, right. And then the the verse riff is very just on the beat. You know, it's like... It's like
which is why I say it's like guitars weren't necessary really in this song, because it's like the drums are mixed so loud, and then with that they kind of overpower the guitars because they're on the same beat, because it's like there's a kick and a snare on the same beat as the guitar is doing its note. Yeah. And so it's like you can't even hear the guitar, and so you just hear the drums and vocals.
Well, that's the thing, is I feel like this song is simple yet elegant, like a death metal ballad should be. All right. So it's interesting. This is the only song, I think, really that does this, but at about a minute 30 in, it has a breakdown. So anyone who's a fan of metalcore and maybe deathcore, I don't know, I don't listen to either very much, but instead of a solo, a lot of metalcore songs have the section where you're supposed to like heavily dance or something, or
mosh or whatever.
Well, I mean, no, not people aren't moshing in metalcore. They're doing that punchy dance, hardcore dancing,
whatever.
Where it goes like, where the guitar just goes, and then the bass. Then actually, this is the only time on the album you get to hear the bass player.
Yeah, it's great. There's a little like whatever. Yeah, it's really cool. Actually, like breakdowns have grown on me over time, and I like this.
Well, that's why I say this is the ballad of the album, because it's so unlike the rest of the structure of all the rest of the songs, and it feels like it's slowing down and more singing to you with that sort of interesting nature.
Yeah, and I guess that kind of continues with this lead that happens in the next section, around 3 minutes in.
Yeah, about 3:30, right?
Yeah, well, it starts around 3 and then it goes on till the end of the song, basically. Mm-hmm. And it's this, trebly, very quiet lead that continues when the vocals come back in, and it ends up being kind of spoopy.
See, it's funny. I called it Weird Angry Drunken Bees. Because it goes like... like you'd expect like a sort of flight of the bumblebees, like...
Yeah, but it's kind of slow.
Yeah, that's why it's Weird Angry Drunken Bees.
Alright, I'll buy that.
And that that sort of lead / solo-y angry drunken bee on the guitar becomes the outro. And that's the thing about this album, is that they all so many of these songs have a solo or angry drunken bee or an underwater person who's playing guitar in a cave somewhere at the end. Right at the end, it switches it up, and I'm like, but the songs all start so fast after one another. This album has almost no silence in between the songs for you to like, pause it if you got something to do, or
for you to like take a breath and meditate on what you just heard for a second.
It's like Angry Drunken Bees. Goes right into the next song. And it's like, whoa! And the thing is, the songs don't flow together enough for that to work, I feel. The next song is The Pillars Crumbling.
The Pillars Crumbling. How'd you think of it?
I didn't think of this one either. But, so The Pillars Crumbling has a lot of great parts that I think are really unique and interesting. I don't know if they work, but we'll get into that. So it starts off with these sweet...
The intro riff is really nice. I love.
Yeah. It has these sweet sort of like accordy biz. And
and it's actually like, I felt like this was one of the more melodic riffs.
This whole song, I actually would like to talk about the melody of. But yeah, it's definitely more melodic. And there's like a lead underneath going, like getting a sort of thing going on. And this you can actually hear in this intro. You can hear the bass.
Yeah, you can hear the bass.
His trebles.
Well, and it's nice because it starts out like does some panning initially, so then when the bass comes in, you're like, oh yeah, there's something...
There's a bass in this band.
Yeah, there's something different here.
Oh, and the drums in this section were really, really, like, technical. There was a lot of, I'm not a drummer. There's a lot of, like, really fast stuff on different cymbals with, like, different amounts of, like, a closed hat and open hat, and then there's tom stuff, and then there's kicks. Whatever, man. It's really... The drums were just really satisfying, and... Yeah, you had to think about them, and it was good. I really appreciated it. And then the verse starts, and then the screaming is really weird.
It's really interesting. It reminded me of the band Behemoth.
I can see that, yeah.
How there's just like an even mix between the layers of... Well, A, there's a lot of layers, and B, there's just there's a range from really low to fairly high for death metal screaming. And it's just kind of mixing them all kind of equally, so it's like a chorus of growls.
In this song?
Yeah.
Behemoth. Yeah.
In both, I'd say. They have that in common.
It's interesting. I feel like these screams they have like reverb.
Yeah, they're very, they fill the space a lot.
There's lots of layering going on here. I would say there's at least like 3 or 4 screams going on here.
To me, it almost sounds like there's a filter on the vocals, because it's so like reverby, chorusy.
Well, that's interesting. This song has the really unique element of having that, like I said, having the interesting intro lead that is very melodic, and then having the sort of like vocals, which are more, like I said, this is like, it's a sort of like scream singing, like I said.
Yeah, and then like during the chorusy bit, like it's cool because it kind of gives me that like group vibe again, because the drums, guitar, and vocals are all in sync. There's just like the shouted like ja ja ja, like where everybody syncs up, and that's really cool.
Yeah, I was gonna say before they sync up, the thing that gives he does like the rock cymbal thing, which is like he goes like
there's a pause
and then it goes into this like I called it death melodic riff. It's not melodic death melodic riff. This sort of like thrashy, sort of like I said, within the scale, but still brutal riff that goes into the chorus, and it's really like it's got a lot of energy, and it's like I said, it's like you said, they're singing together and the guitar's playing together and the drums, and it's all really, this is well mixed, I would say. So it was all very satisfying.
Unified.
Then at about 2 minutes 30 seconds in, there's this really long protracted bridge section.
Yeah, that I felt like it was kind of an unnecessary portion of the song. Well, personally,
what I think that happened was that the intro and the verse and the chorus are too, I'm going to use the word accessible. They're too mainstream. They're too nice, and so they had to do this really much faster, weird riff, instrumental middle section to sort of get away from that for a minute.
I just felt like it needed I felt like it was boring, like it's too repetitive, and it needed like something like, I don't know, guitar solo on top of it.
Well, how else are you gonna look at the audience and be like, open this pit or wall of death, and then they just play this section and everyone's just like,
I can totally imagine seeing this live. It wouldn't be boring, but like just sitting here listening to it, I'm like, okay, like this will be fun. This will be fun when I go to the live show and there's like a bunch of moshing to do. But like, when I'm just sitting here listening to it by myself, like. Yeah. It's not as exciting.
Going into the mosh pit like Obituary, that we saw them live. It was awesome. They were crazy. Yeah. So what's interesting is this song is really weird in the last part. So about 4 minutes in, this song is like, 4.5 minutes-ish, something?
There's a solo?
It's a solo, it's a bridge, it's an outro, it's an interlude.
I think I'd call it a solo, but the problem is it needs to be boosted more.
Well, yes. It's just all the solos here either need to be mixed higher or with a different tone.
But this solo, I like it because it's got some like major bits.
I called it thrash death surf rock.
Sure.
It really is, because like I said, it gets these major, these sort of bluesy, these sort of rock scale, Dorian scale things going on.
Yeah, it's a really interesting section of the song. Like I liked it for that reason, because it was just really interesting to listen to, and it was surprising. Like I don't expect to be listening to death metal and suddenly it's like do do do. I'm like, what?
Yeah,
that's weird.
That's the thing that's really interesting, and they do that again in a couple songs from now. But that's what's interesting is, like I said, so much of this is, do the double kicks, do the bells, do the trim picking. And then when something like this happens,
it makes it unique.
You're like, man, this is good. Mm-hmm. You're like, death metal, I can thrash, I can headbang to this, I can move around to this, I can mosh to this. And then you see something like this and you're like, wow, I can like appreciate this musically. And
it's also nice because a lot of the songs just kind of end on these like slow, weird things, and this one just goes like a beely beely bee. Ends on a high note.
The next song is For No Master.
For No Master. Was this song your master?
No.
You didn't like it?
No. Okay, this song is good. So I don't think I mentioned earlier, but The Righteous Voice was written by... Almost all the songs were written by Azeg Thoth. Gosh, that's weird to say. Except for The Righteous Voice, which was written by Steve Tucker and Scott Fuller, the new vocalist / bassist and the drummer. Mm-hmm. And this song was also written by Tucker and Fuller. So this song was written by them, and is only one of the 2 songs written by them. Mm-hmm. And it definitely has, like I said, a different kind of feel to it, I think. This, I said, in the intro is very Black and Death feeling to me.
So I wrote just really aggressive initially, and I like it. It's just like
Because there's treble in this. Like I said, that's why I say Black and Death, because it goes like that harmonic minor chromatic-y thing going on.
And I like that a lot, because it's just like in your face, and it's filling up like more of the sonic space than it has previously, and it's just really nice. And then when we get to the chorus, I love the chorus. This is my favorite, maybe, like, riff and like section of any song on this album, really.
Okay.
Because it's got such a unique rhythm and melody, I'd say, because it's got the
this song is the most scream sung. This is almost sung with a brutal voice.
And it's like it's just got it's got the most memorable chorus, I'd say.
You think so? You think For No Master?
Yeah.
Most memorable? All right. I will say that the drums on this song is, I would say, 90% blast beats. Just all, which means...
That's why that chorus is so, like, notable, because it stops on the blast beats for a second.
What's interesting is that because it's written by the drummer and the bassist, you gotta be like, which means that he meant for 90% to be blast beats. He must really like blast beats. Like I said, he was in Havoc and Annihilated, not Annihilator.
Which is interesting, because Havoc's a thrash band, so one would think he'd like the Slayer beat, you know?
I don't know.
But
Havoc is heavier than that.
I guess.
But anyway, so what I like about this, though, is you can tell the drummer had so much more feeling for it, because the at the end of each, like, set of bars of the blast beats, he does, like, a sweet, like, bass. I say bass scale. I mean, like, he uses all his toms and his cymbals, and he does, like, sweet, like, sort of fills at the end of each one that are really distinct and forwardly mixed, and it really feels like he wanted to replay them, like he wanted to write it, and I really like that about the drums in this song. Then, at about 2 minutes in, once again, the weird outro-y guitar-y thing happens. Because there's this like, wah sort of bit. This lead has weird
I like how it starts during the second chorus, though. Like, it kind of makes a lead. Like, there's, like, a vocal in the chorus, and then there's a little, like, dee-dee-dee, but it's really quiet, which is the problem. But it introduces that lead section nicely.
No, I definitely, like I said, I'm very much into the idea of it, I guess.
Yeah, it's just too quiet.
But the fact that it's underwatery, it starts off really, like, syrupy and slow.
It almost sounds like the whole thing is done muted.
Yes, and then you can tell at one point it picks up. It gets a little bit shreddy. It gets a little bit of stank on it. But it's so, like, muted and back mixed and quiet that you're like, oh, this would be so awesome if I could just be hearing it right now.
Yeah. And then a problem we have with a lot of these songs is that they, like, come in with a new riff towards the end of the song, and I like how this one actually ended it with the first riff of the song returning at the end, and it made it a big circle of happiness.
Yes, song should begin and end unless trailing off is the specific art you're going for.
Yes.
In fact, I'm declaring a new law.
Declaring a new law / secret hell. Was it your secret hell?
No. So this song, I wrote on it that this is the most mainstream metal song on the album.
Really? I thought it was just boring.
That's what I'm saying.
Okay.
Modern metal, mainstream metal, something that's easy to listen to.
This song just starts with dun 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 dun.
It's low chugs matching with the
forever.
Okay. It's low chugs matching with the kicks, and it's sort of like atonal kind of tribal-y thing going on.
It's just the same note repeated.
I know, but it was a chord that was slightly atonal.
Yeah.
And like I said, it had this sort of like dun, 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 like, but with the kicks and everybody matching up. It was heavy.
Yes, I will not deny its heaviness.
I will say, on this one, the vocals are super forward mixed in the verse.
Because that's all there is.
Yeah, because right up in your face.
Well, because the vocals are the only interesting part, I feel like, because it's just saying this dun, 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 dun
this
thing
song,
over and over again.
Well, this song's about 1/4 the speed of all the other songs, and literally the drums are just...
It's his nap song.
Yeah, and I would also want a breath after playing all of these songs in a row as drums, but it's significantly slower. The drums are significantly simpler, and it's, like I said, it's much more mainstream. It's much more digestible. Yeah. This is the radio hit.
I guess. I don't know. Personally, I was expecting after this, like, really repetitive, like, dun 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 section, like, it felt tense to me, like it was gonna break into a, like, I don't know, wait.
What? Hold on.
But I wanted that, and it never happened. Like, when it changed riffs, it just changed into a slightly more interesting rhythm version of that same riff.
Well, that's what I said. The chorus, the guitars get to move a little bit more, the drums get a little more energy.
It's not just, like, eighth notes. It's, like, some rhythm.
Yeah, and what's interesting is the vocal gets this sort of... I don't know whether to call it a call and response or just a delay, reverby, echoey thing going on. But he says the line, which I forget what it is, declaring new law or whatever it is, and then it says it again quieter, and then it says it again quieter, and
it's just an echo.
Well, I know, but it says it immediately, almost overlapping. So it's like, I'm not sure.
It's kind of interesting.
I know. I'm not saying it's bad. I'm saying it's unique for this song, and like I said, it's interesting how many of these songs don't just have a.
Because I think that's where a lot of death metal fails, is that it has really monotonous vocals, and like one of the biggest things for me if I'm listening to death metal is the vocals aren't just blah 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 blah, but they're like have some variety to them and some layering and some like interesting moments.
Screams versus growls, gutturals versus whatever. And I think this chorus vocal has an interesting thing going on for it with all that I said, the echo and the reverb and the sonic space filling. This also is very unique in its solo. This is the only song that has a distinct, here's the beginning of a solo, here's the end of a solo, this is designed to show off our guitarist doing something.
Yeah, I didn't super like this solo. It felt really slow.
It's a slow, Arabic-y, Phrygian dominant-y. It had like one point where it went it had like a little bit of shred for a second.
It was just so slow.
It was just this slow Arabic rhythm thing, which, granted, so much of this album is so fast and so heavy that maybe having a little bit of a lighter, sort of slower thing, and this whole song is slower, so really, maybe it's the pause we need.
It made sense. It was the same, like, rhythm as the rest of the song, but it was just kind of slow.
I enjoyed it melodically. I will say I didn't enjoy the speed as much for what I expect from a death metal band. Mm-hmm. Yeah. Definitely it wasn't played by the hands of kings.
From the Hand of Kings. What'd you think?
It was handed to me by kings.
This is a good song.
This is a good song. So
yeah. I was gonna say it starts out really aggressive. How you expect I almost said thrash metal. How you expect a death metal song to start. And speaking of thrash metal, it does get a little thrashy.
This is the thrashiest song on here.
Yeah. Well, like it does the like panning from one side to the other.
Things it does. This song is the most standard structure. Intro, verse, chorus, solo, ending. It's the most standard. It's the most simple. It's the most. Here's. At one point, it goes like right near the beginning. It's got like your usual thrash climbs, your little thrash riffs.
And it's got it even adopts the Slayer beat for half a minute.
Yeah.
It's just like no Black to Blast, please.
There's
back to blast beats.
There's lots of distinct guitar riffing going on. There's sort of the trim pick scales.
Like in the verse, I really liked how it's like it's the trim picking while the vocals are happening, and then after the vocals stop, it goes like a do 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 do, like some sort of little thing.
Once again, this is another song that really is in that sort of death evolving as an offshoot of thrash sort of thing. And this song really feels it. There's a lot of, like, once again, melodic, in quotes, guitar work going on here. There's a lot of...
Or at least where you can tell that there's different notes being played.
Yeah,
it doesn't... Because, like, a lot of, like, even on this album, a lot of times I felt like everything is so low that it's just getting lost. Like, all the melodies that are happening are just getting lost in how low everything is. But there are moments in the song where it sticks out.
Yeah, well, yes, and it's interesting because this song has like multiple like rhythmic pauses and very interesting sort of timing in certain areas. Like I said, the trim picking to the climbs and the descends, it's all great. Like, this is a very, very well structured song. And then we get to the guitar solo, and it's awesome. This I what did I say to you when this solo started playing?
I don't know.
I said. Kirk Hammett showed up for a second, and I say that as a joke, obviously, but because it's like sweet wah and bends and tapping.
Yeah, it's just too quiet.
Yes,
too quiet and too short.
Well, I wonder if that's a producer issue, because like I said, you think about the things this producer has made. Think of Cannibal Corpse, where it's all just, and you think of Nile, where it's all very sort of.
Well, yeah, because Nile, the drums are the important part.
Gosh, that was an insane show to see live. Nile's awesome. But so this solo is awesome, and this is my favorite solo on the album, and it's so good. But yes, it is mixed.
It's so quiet. That was the only flaw with the solo that I saw, is that it's just too quiet and a little short. It could be faster, or not faster. It could be longer.
Well, yeah. I mean, this song left me feeling as though Morbid Angels might be some of my idols, and I'd hate to see the fall of idols.
The fall of idols. How'd this song fall on you?
It fell on happy ears, I think. So this song also starts off very black metal-y with that 3-note. Yeah, so it has these 3-note trim pick things with in between. It has these sort of like chugs and death metal-y sort of like.
Yeah, and when the vocals come in, they're kind of a little higher than usual. It's not like a deep guttural growl. It's just more like closer, not quite a mid scream, but.
No, nowhere near mid.
A little higher.
Yes,
and a little higher, and it's nice because when you have that slightly higher vocal, you can hear more of the shape and the tone of the vocals. Like,
you can definitely understand. Like, this is a song where you can definitely understand what he's saying a lot more. I feel.
Well, and I think that's partially because of the slightly higher pitch, and also then it gives him a place to go down for more heaviness, as opposed to like if you start in your lowest growl you can do, like there's nowhere to go from there to build the heaviness.
Well, yeah, and speaking of heaviness, it's interesting because the first half of the chorus is more trim picking, more trim picking, the drums, doing what the drums have been doing the whole time. No offense, he's a great drummer, but a lot of the same thing. And then it switches to these like these like chugs, these like sort of chuggy chords for like half a second, and it's a really awesome transition throughout the chorus where you just get this sort of tenseness and then these heavy sort of releases of that tension. And at the same time, the vocal scream in the chorus is layered and has this sort of...
It almost feels like a group.
It has that thrashy group shout in the chorus
Exactly,
thing.
Yeah.
And we always compare everything to thrash, but because Morbid Angel developed out of the thrash era, they developed. So,
also, we're just thrash fans, so that gives us something to compare to.
Yes. So, I really liked, this is one of my favorite choruses, because it really feels like, it's got that energy, it's got that group. It's like, when they play this on stage, the crowd is going to chant back, because it feels like that's what you're supposed to do.
Yeah, it does, it definitely, pulls the group in.
So there's one point, I'm not sure if it's a lead, or it's a solo, but it's the first time, and it's that 80s tone again. It's very crispy, it's very crunchy, it's very forwardly mixed. Unlike the rest of them, I felt like this solo is not quiet.
Yeah, I wrote that it was a lot more clear than the rest of the album, but it was very short.
It was super short. It was like...
And then followed by just, blast beats for days.
Yeah.
For days.
For days. No. But it was just really, 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 really way too short. And not that the song is bad, but it continues on for a while after that. And then the second solo comes in, and... It's interesting.
It was kind of just weird, sustainy sounds at first.
So the whole last minute and a half of the song is this.
It's a long solo, so I guess that makes it better.
I don't know.
It doesn't have the flaw of being too short, because it has a lot of sustains in it, and then it goes for a second, and then
well, it ends with weird sort of
whammy bar tricks, but low whammy. It's not like Slayer where it's like it's like yeah.
I'm sure that's gonna be a weird video clip at some point after this. But it's the song ends with these weird whammy bar businesses. And I'm like, that was not how I expected the album to end. I thought the album would or something
and
death metal.
With definitively aggression.
But it kind of just goes... Which
I guess kind of makes sense with how a lot of the songs previously have ended in a similar fashion.
I won't say it's any different than the rest of the songs, but I feel like the album should have ended with the same intensity that it began.
Yeah.
And it really didn't feel like that for me.
Yeah. I can agree with that.
Let's talk about the album as a whole.
Yeah.
So, Morbid Angel, this is the first time we have heard any of their stuff. I hadn't even heard a Morbid Angel song.
I've been meaning to listen to Morbid Angel.
So we've been to several death metal-y shows. We've seen Obituary, we've seen Vader, we've seen who else?
A couple other people.
We saw Nile. They were amazing. And so Morbid Angel's just always been on our list, along with Bolt Thrower and everybody. So when we saw that they were coming out with a new album, we're like, this is the perfect opportunity to get into it.
With that though, would you listen to more
Morbid Angel after this?
Morbid Angel, yeah.
Well, it's interesting because this is this guy who sang on this album and their 2003 album, and I don't know how many before that. And they had a different singer on their last album, and I don't know if they had different singers before that. And they had all different band members before this one, so I don't know if they all sound the same. I'm told the last ones are kind of industrial metal in addition to death metal.
Interesting.
So definitely, I would love to listen to more Morbid Angel. This definitely sold me on it.
I'd probably I'll take this and then go back to their first album.
Oh yeah, this is definitely when I'll start over because I like that sort of 80s or sort of rougher sound.
Yeah.
because I don't like it when stuff like this is too produced. Hipster or me. So, that being said, my favorite songs from this, number one was From the Hand of Kings, because that song is just, it's all thrashy, it's got all the climbs, it's got all the melodic, rhythmic guitar work. It starts with the death metal.
That's true, that is pretty great.
And it's
like all good black metal songs start with that.
And so, it's got that guitar solo that has the sweet wah, and the bends, and the tapping, and everything that's good. From the Hand of Kings is where I like death, which is like thrash, but harder and heavier and more gross. And that's what I love that. So that was my favorite. My second favorite was Paradigms Warped. I know it was very on the beat. It was very sort of like marching, but I like the breakdown section where the bass got to play for a little bit.
That was cool. Yeah.
I'm a bass player, so when I get to see that, I'm like, yeah, you do that. And the weird Angry Drunken Bees lead. It was such a mix up.
Weird.
That I really liked it, like, a lot. And so, it will be one of my favorites. And then The Pillars Crumbling was my third. Because, like I said, it had that lead under the sweet intro chords. It had lots of really technical movement in the drums. It had that sweet sort of thrash death surf rock solo at the end.
Well, and what you say about the drums and about that song in general is why that one was my favorite.
The Pillars Crumbling?
Yeah. Like, I just really liked a lot. I liked the major section in the solo, and I really thought the drums stood out on that one, and it had overall a really cool rhythm, and that song was definitely my favorite.
And what else?
What I was getting my other favorites. Second favorite was For No Master.
How come?
Just because it was, I love the chorus of that song so much.
Yeah, it's definitely different.
It's just a memorable, like, melodic chorus. And I'm a sucker for, like, interesting, unique rhythms. Because
you're a drummer.
So I like that one a lot. And then my third favorite was From the Hand of Kings.
It's just, that's such a great song.
It's got the Slayer beat.
I think we will agree on what the worst song of the album was.
Declaring New Law?
Declaring New Law.
It was just kind of boring.
It's very mainstream. Like I said, it's very radio hitty. It's very acceptable.
As insofar as... Morbid Angel will get played on the radio.
It's very acceptable, and that's why I didn't like it as much.
I just thought it was kind of boring and straightforward.
So now, would you recommend this album to other people, though?
Yeah, I totally would. Even if someone isn't a death metal fan, like if you're just, if you like maybe thrash, or if you like black metal, or if you just are kind of into the extreme metal in general, like you'll really like this.
Yes, I mean, there's a reason Morbid Angel have been around forever. They're just a fantastic band. I thought they did great.
Yeah. No, I rate this album well.
Yes. Speaking of ratings, I would rate this album definitely like a 7.
Yeah, I was about to say the same thing. Yeah, a 7. Granted, it's hard for me to judge against, because I don't listen to a ton of death metal. I mostly like Death is my favorite death metal band.
Wow. Shocking.
But yeah, I'd give this like a 7.
Yeah, no.
Where like 10 is Scream Bloody Gore, Like.
Yes, this album was really good, and I would absolutely listen to more. And one quick note before we end this episode: we're married. A lot of you out there don't really understand that. So you make a lot of sassy comments, and that's all I have to say about that.
Yep.
Everybody's a critic, including us. Bye bye.